Hello and good afternoon, everyone. This is Naishad coming to you from Melbourne, and this is the 234th episode of Career Care Package. And I am broadcasting from my home in Melbourne, and KB is somewhere north from me. I think she's in Sydney, and it's rain and hailing, not hailing, but raining up there. So you might hear some background noises when KB speaks, as well. But we are really excited to be back after a week and looking forward to the break coming up in a couple of weeks' time. But today's episode is going to be interesting one. It's a topic that has gathered a lot of momentum in last few months. Everyone's talking about Great Resignation. It's coming like an asteroid coming to the earth. That's how it feels like. But let's welcome Caroline Brown and kick off the discussion.
Thanks, Nation. For some reason, I decided that it'd be good to broadcast in a little. It's a little granny flat at my friend's place. It's also her office, but it has a tin roof, and so not only is the rain, but there's hail as well. So if I'm going like this, I'm just having trouble hearing, or if I say something nonsensical, it's because I'm like my dad. I'm a bit deaf at the moment, so. But it's fantastic to be here, and I decided to come up to Sydney because I could finally after borders being open and whatnot. And I made it to my favourite hairdresser that I used to have in Sydney. So she gave me a bit of a. I walked into the hairdresser and she said mullet, and I'm like, at that point, I should have gone. But anyway, it was really lovely. I think good to get a haircut in an
Yeah,
old stomping ground, and we both had a little bit of a tear in our eye because it's been 2 years.
yeah.
So more than 2 years since I've seen her, and
Mm.
about 3 or 4 years since I've had a haircut in Sydney. So it was great to be there. But today we're talking about the Great Resignation, and you're going to do some myth busting around this, which I think will be interesting. And we're going to talk about that, regardless of whether it's a myth or not. We're going to talk about how to turn a feeling of resignation around, I hate my job, and quitting rage into a level of inspiration. But yeah, so we've heard about the Great Resignation. Is it true?
Look, I
What's
think
the information?
I read. I'm just going by one of our veteran in the industry wrote. Dr. Jim Wright wrote a very fabulous article, and I'll put the link in there. And he talks about that. Obviously there is. It is based on U.S. Statistics, not anywhere else. And he talks about that there is a movement, but it's not a great movement. It's not that movement which you haven't seen before, right? So I understand that a lot of people are now looking for more flexibility on their work, more meaning in their work, but that doesn't mean that people are quitting in hundreds and thousands. So the data does not really add up. Now
Mm,
it is also predicted that that's going to happen. So obviously we are yet to see when the pandemic and kind of takes a full circle of we are becoming kind of starting to live with this pandemic, and whether that will impact a lot of people in a mass exodus and starting to think about I don't want to do this and I want to do something else,
mm,
or I want to quit the job. So I think it is, in my view, is that it is a little over estimated, the whole
mm,
idea of it. And Dr. Jim Bright writes it really, really well. He says that the work design consultants who probably spent the lockdown doing creative writing course have let fly with florid narratives claiming the reason people are supposedly quitting in mass is that they have had time to reevaluate their lives. So I think it's kind of not really based on huge amount of data. I know there are researches done on that one, and that's something that I know you want to talk about that too. But I think things always were going on. People, it's not pandemic has probably started to give people more, introspection time to look at, what do I want to do. But it's not that people were not introspective at all.
mm.
That people were not looking for meaning in their work. I think that's a very naive statement, about this. But that's what my view is, KB.
Yeah, it's interesting. So he was saying that term was coined by people like us that had a bit too much time on our hands and go, which is possibly right. I mean, it's nothing like a great catchphrase, isn't there? The Great Resignation. But I mean, the information that I saw, and this was back in March this year, which was a study of 30,000 in 31 countries, said that 40% were considering leaving, and they were advising against the leaving rage type thing. So, versus the considered approach to what you might want to do next. And it's interesting because I think, the leave, like maybe it's connected to how work's going to look once we're out on the other side of the pandemic, because a lot of people have really enjoyed the hybrid nature. And I did read somewhere that a lot more employers want employees to come back to the workplace versus employees actually wanting to go back. But whether that's enough to prompt, throwing your hat in the ring or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's really, really interesting. I think what is happening and what I'm hearing a lot of from a lot of different people, including my hairdresser, who's always talking to people, is that people are really getting headhunted a lot. And there's a lot of jobs around for people. So a lot of great jobs around for people because I guess the borders have been shut, and our usual source of great talent has been locked out of the country. So I've had a couple of comments. Emily says, I don't know, VOHFYI, what does that mean? Something about volume?
I don't
Emily,
know.
you might want to expand on that one because I'm not good on the acronyms.
That's a slang. That's a slang. Even I don't get that. So I might
Yeah,
have to Google the name
very
to find out. Yeah.
outstanding haircut. I think that's what that means. So Hassan says resignations come with opportunities, which is a great point because one of the things that happen when you quit, like you pull the rug out, I think there's two things that happen, but and the worst case scenario is that your world closes in and you can't think. You go back to what you've done before, that thing that you're actually quitting, or you make a decision based on that's not what I want versus this is this is the whole realm of everything that could be available to me, what really makes me happy. So yeah, the thing about quitting, like the opportunity thing, is also you can start to get real if you shut that door, you can start to be really creative. So that anxiety that you have prompts you to take a lot more action, but also be a lot more courageous and creative in your approach as well. So in that way, I think resignations do come with opportunities. And I think a lot of the time, with the cards, which I'll just flash up here, Cards Against Insanity, a lot of these cards are built around creating that kind of opportunity and creating that kind of inspiration.
Absolutely. I think resignations are equally not new. We must that's what I'm kind of find it really hard to understand, is that these conversations have been happening uh, even before pandemic. What this pandemic has done is that it has opened up the conversation. Now it's in more public domain, everyone's talking
Mm,
about this, right? That the whether your company is giving flexibility or not. And I think the companies are also starting to get more concerned about what if we don't give flexibility in hybrid work environment
mm,
and more career support. They may we might lose talent. So I think company
mm.
organization would also be thinking on the same line as well. I think that would be my view on that. When it comes to the opportunity side, what you mentioned about in the context of Australia, yes, there are jobs available. I've heard that if you are a barista, you might get $1,000 signing bonus, right? Because just that
Wow.
they cannot find it. And i
Mm,
i think hospitality to retail is an industry that has, or travel and all those ones, have suffered a lot because people moved on. I remember one of a great joint in Indian restaurant that we used to go there. And just after the pandemic, sorry, just after the easing of restriction this time, when they opened up, I called and I said, we want to come, do we need to make a booking? He said, you know what, i I had to let all my staff go, and
Mm,
I am now going to rehire people or ask them to come back because they have moved on, they have gone and found something else. So I don't know what am I going to. So I think it is a tight market when it comes to candidate, from
mm,
candidate perspective.
mm.
The people are looking for, but
Well, there's
also
an
at the
article
same
in the
time they are
paper
looking for different
today.
skills too.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I cut across you, Nash, but just based on what you said, there was an article in the paper the other day about the Cherry Bar in Melbourne not being able to having to shut because they couldn't get enough staff returning. We have just had a question from Tamara about tell me more about these cards against insanity, which are here. We'll put a link to in the comments, Tamara, but basically Nation and I designed these cards to stop you going mad on the job hunt. So they give you fresh ideas, they give you ways to boost your network and ways to keep your mindset happy. So there's 47 cards, there's some QR codes on the cards that link you through to some great resources that we've designed to help you find a job and support some of the tips that we've given on the cards. Let's talk about some of those cards around inspiration, Nash, and some of the things that you can do that take you from the quitting rage, shut down, and shut down a thought process to the actual quit and get inspired about what your new move can be. Because there's a lot of things that you can do to actually help you get inspired. So, is there a card that particularly speaks to you?
I think if I go back to the discussion, that I don't know who did we have the discussion with, but I really like the card of what's your story,
Yep.
card. I think that's a very powerful one. We all have a career story, and I think if you worked, one of the things that you when you ask people, tell me about yourself, people tell a story about themselves, but it more based factual. So I worked here, then I worked here, then I worked here. But they're really, getting to the really crux of the story. That means there are only few events or instances that has happened that shaped your career. I
Mm,
think getting to know your career story, the underlying things that you really, really, like, or that
mm,
makes you really happy, or that, the kind of work environment that you really thrive.
mm,
Giving it a reflection during this time is an important thing. Writing your reflections, this is what I thrive, whether you are there or not, but just recognizing
mm,
that what is my underlying career story. And one of the way that you can really find some, points is look at some of the amazing results that you had. I'm not talking about you saving $1,000 every week for a company, not that kind of, but big results. Look at big results, look at big changes that you've gone through. What really helped you to make those changes, and what made you, who did you become out of those changes? I think those are very important things to really reflect back on, and especially the time of Christmas. Obviously, after eating your,
mm.
chocolates and cakes and everything else, this is a time to reflect on. And
Yeah,
reflection is not a forced one. You don't have to forceful yourself that in next 15 minutes I'm going to come up with an answer. No, it's a gentle process. So you are
yeah.
reflecting on it, and you are writing responses, but you don't have to write eloquent responses just for your own eyes. I think that's a very powerful one.
Yeah. One of the tools, which I think is a good thing to give people, is how do we talk about this thing about what's your story, but I think it's useful to give yourself a structure in that. And one of the things that I do with my clients when I'm developing resumes or LinkedIn profiles or in the Straight to Shortlist challenge is I get them to write 5 to 10 stories. Now, the stories have a structure. So you're basically answering these questions. It was think about something a problem that you've solved that you've enjoyed solving, or an achievement or a project. Tell me what the challenge was. Tell me, and it's a star approach. So why did you have to do that task? what was challenging about that, what actions you took to solve that task, and what was the result, and what was the broader benefit to the company or organization. And if you go through, your last 3 or 4 jobs or the last 4 or 5 years, you're wanting to look at not just your last job, but all of, all of your recent history in that. You can then start to see some common themes. So it really does come out, um, you know, what you've enjoyed. So you write your stories down and then go for a walk, or put it out of your mind for a while, and then start to think. And quite often, or jot down things as they come to you out of those stories. What comes out of that is the environment that you like to work in, the types of problems that you like to solve, and the types of strengths that you're applying when you do those. And that can give you a picture based on all of your career or all of yourself, not just your last job. And I also suggest, if you're looking to change your career, you also look at, and also this applies for, if you're wanting to do the same thing, you also look at other things that you've enjoyed doing outside of work, whether it might be coaching soccer or volunteering at a food van, or at the PwC. All of those sorts of things. You can have some great, rich stories that come out of that can help shape your next move, and it's a great foundation to lay to then to start to think about what's actually next. So that storytelling approach. We use that now in resumes, we use that in LinkedIn profiles. You can definitely use those stories in your interviews as well. So, I think that's a great tip to give people.
Yeah.
You got to say something else, Nish, before I.
No, no. The another one which is on similar, not similar, but it's a different tip altogether, which is around. This is something that I learned as part of my grad cert, which is, and this is part of the book, Work Designing a Work Life, which is called an Odyssey plan.
Mhm.
So Odyssey means discovery. You are out on a voyage. You're discovering things. You're
Yeah,
not these. When we ask people to plan, people are saying, "Oh God, I have to now
found the
plan
cards.
for next 6 months, next that one." I think Odyssey plans are great for you to, so in the whole process you can design three plans. So one is by default plan, what's going to happen if this is going to continue next 5 years. Then if the current work that you are doing doesn't exist, what would you do then? And the third is that what if the money, social status, and everything is taken care of, then what would you do? So I think that not necessarily that we want you to be responsible about your finances and quit and then live on a yacht. Well, that's something that people use do sometimes, but the same time it's just giving yourself the freedom to be more creative around it is equally important. Go ahead, KB.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. It's a really different framework to give people in terms of what their career might look like. It's not just what would you do in the next 5 years. It's actually asking some really pertinent questions. What would you do if your job didn't exist? What would you do if you didn't need to live up to some sort of expectation of somebody else? And what I've forgotten the
So
third
if
question.
everything is taken care of, money, social status is no
Yeah.
longer
What would you do?
important, or what would you do then? Yeah.
Yeah, and you probably get three very different answers. I have one that I've just lost, and it was around vision boards. Let me just
Hmm.
dig that card out. Um, I'm on LinkedIn. See it. Here we go. Vision boards. This is an example of the card. One of the things that we tell you to do, which can help you take a vague plan and bring it into reality in a very powerful way, is to create a vision board for what you'd like to do. So on the card, on the back of the card, it says. So on the front of the card, we give you the tip. On the back of the card, we explained why and some of the how. So it says, what do Jim Carrey and Oprah Winfrey have in common? They've visualized what they want to bring into reality. And research has suggested that using brain imagery and visualization is really powerful, because if we visualize it, we can and imagine it, often that's the same as bringing that feeling to translate that feeling into the front of your brain to translate that into real life action. So actually visualizing yourself, having a real visual reminder of what it is that you want to do next is a really powerful career tool. It says if we visualize doing something, the brain generates an impulse that tells our neurons to perform that movement. So often, tennis players visualize themselves and the sequence of events, the sequence of shots that they might make in a tennis match. Equally, you can visualize yourself in terms of what you like to do. And I've got a great tale, and I
Mm.
tell it a few times, I know, but one of my clients wanted to work in New York, and she didn't have a visa, she didn't have any contacts, and she quit her job to do it. So basically
Mm.
what she did was every day she'd get dressed in her work clothes, what she wanted to do, and she would treat every single meeting as a potential interview. So, and then one day she was having dinner with a friend in her work clothes, and her friend actually had invited her old boss from IBM to come to dinner. And that dinner led to a conversation around, because she looked the part, for what she wanted to do, led to a conversation around what she wanted to do. And she had a series of interviews and got the job. So she visualized it, she put the clothes on, and she behaved like that's what she was actually doing. So it's
Mm.
a great way to help you really, push your goals forward, basically.
Absolutely fascinating story. I think we have all in, reflecting on what you may have accomplished, and see whether the visualization has played a role into that too.
Mm.
As well. Like, going in the interviews, we ask people to visualize, how the interview is going to roll. What
Mm.
kind of questions are you going to answer? How are you going to ask the questions?
Mm.
I think that's very, very, very important.
Yep.
Another one on here, and I can't find the card now, but on the side hustle one, which
Ah.
is an important one. I think, look at, I'm pretty sure that half of Australia has got a side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
They are doing some or the other thing on the side, some or the other thing, whether it could be just a small coaching, or it could be sitting, becoming a pet sitter, or it could be I don't know, helping kids with chemistry. There were I think there is, and the avenues are enormous now, up for to air tasker to social media and everything else. I think, think about whether you've got a hobby, something that you can turn that, or try it out. Take a
Mm.
small, do a small taste drive.
Mm.
Ask somebody and say, look, what if I give you this kind of service? Would you be happy with it? See if you can do that, because what it does is it opens up the ideas, it opens up a new opportunity for you. You are adding into the skill set for yourself too. So I think side hustle would probably be another thing that you can look forward to or think about during this time, or what you can do and what other
Yeah.
people are doing too.
It's interesting because, often your side hustle comes from some hobby that you
Mm,
have, or interest that you have. And again, what it's doing is, I think it's like stimulating your brain in another way, but it's also exposing you to things that you can learn. It's exposing you to other people, and it's also making you entrepreneurial. And that's one of
mm,
those future-based skill or future skills that all of the experts say
mm.
that we will need moving forward into this kind of new weird world of work, where certainty, well, there is less job certainty, is that entrepreneurial thing.
Yep.
And it's funny because reason of late, and I would say it's the last 4 or 5 years, people used to hide their side hustles a lot,
Mm,
but some employers want you to do that. And it just depends on how you actually pitch it, because a lot of employers are encouraging that internal entrepreneur within their organization, that knows how to develop something, and out of nothing, and have that idea, to road test that idea and have that idea float. So if you're doing that, it can actually benefit you
Mm,
getting your next job, even if you can't see the immediate connection as well. But also, like a side hustle gives you ideas, but you can segue from your main job into your side hustle if that's it's a way of actually unpacking and uncovering your passions as well. So, and it can be fun. I mean, you side hustle all the time, Naish. It's like you're the
exactly.
king of side hustles.
Exactly. And that's, I think that's another thing, is that side hustle, sometimes you find that, that's what you always wanted to do, but you fell into this one, right? Now,
Mm,
another thing that I think, came to me, something that we all can do, you know, this goes on Twitter a lot. Normalize this, normalize this, normalize this, right? One of the things that in career we can normalize it, not knowing what's your ideal career, not
mm,
knowing, what they say, a lot of or a lot of self, kind of self recognized career coaches say, is what's your passion. Normalize not knowing your passion, or normalize not knowing your ideal career. I think there's just too much pressure on that you need to know that. I've seen on Twitter recently, in southern India, there is an elderly woman around 94 years, and she completed her HSC at 94 years of age. And we have seen a lot of examples of it. So people, it takes sometimes while for people to find out what do they really enjoy. So normalize it. You don't have
mm.
to know that. So I want you to really take that pressure off, that it's a discovery process. There are things about yourself that you may not even know right now because you're not exposed to those circumstances, right? So take it easy. Normalize that you don't know what's your ideal career and you're still struggling or discovering it. That's fine. You don't need to fall in love with the coding that you do or the engineering work that you do, right? If you don't like it, don't like it, right? But you don't have to be ashamed about that. Oh, I'm now general manager. I don't know what my career should be. Well, that's
Mm.
fine. That's not a problem at all.
And that actually is interesting as well, and I guess brings me to the next card. Can't put it up here. Other way, KB. Uh, you think I get this
This
right?
way. That's it. Yes, that's it.
Informational interviews. We spoke about them last week. If you haven't seen
Yes.
last week's video, go and watch it because what an informational interview is simply a discussion with somebody around something that you think that you might like to do. Um, and so, if somebody is working, I remember years ago when I wanted to transition out of the corporate world, I used an informational interview because, and again, it's like that question around what do you want to do? What's your ideal job? What's your passion? I had absolutely zero idea, but I did know I had some inkling about what I was good at. And one of the general managers at the time told me that I could write. Right? I'm
Mm,
like, oh, okay, somebody else has recognized that. So maybe that's just a little clue. Like, let's see where we can go with that. So what I
yeah.
did, I knew I was unhappy, but what I did is I went and spoke to somebody who'd set up a magazine,
Mm,
an industry magazine, and she had no idea why I wanted to meet her, even though I'd explained it, which is another point about informational interviews. When you sit in front of people, even though they say yes, they don't really know how that meeting is going to go. Anyway, I took her some muffins and I said, I'm curious about what you do. I think I'm interested maybe in exploring a career in writing. Tell me about the magazine. And so it was basically hit go with that question. And half an hour later, she said to me, like I had a few questions, but it was just a general chit chat. Half an hour later, she said to me, so what is it that you're thinking of doing? And because what she'd said had really stimulated my interest, I said, oh, I think I'd really like to write. That sounds fantastic. So she offered me an opportunity to write for her magazine. And the first article wasn't paid and was terrible. Um, but from there, she started to pay me for work. And that actually helped me segue my career. So, informational interview, and we've got a card on that,
yep.
um, is a fantastic way to explore ideas. You don't have to follow. you might go and decide you want to be a helicopter pilot. It can just be all you're presenting is with your curiosity around that and what a helicopter pilot does and what they enjoy about it and how they got into it. You may decide that that absolutely isn't for you, and there's a great outcome. But they're a great way to start to find out a bit more about what other people do, but also build your connections and build your network. So yeah, that normalizing, I think it's normalizing is, yeah, I don't have a passion, but in that normalization, you can't just sit in that space.
Mm,
You
mm.
know, it's safe to sit in that space and think you'd be fantastic at something other than what you're doing now, but take some action around, finding out a little bit more about what you want to do by doing informational interviews.
Yeah, makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. I think they are gold mine, the informational interviews,
Mm,
and you know, at the same time, you know, you'll probably have to hustle sometimes to get to that. And one of my favorite pet peeve is that is that average job seeker's confidence is less than somebody who sells drugs outside, which is
yeah.
unethical, criminal, but they sell it with so much confidence that you can't believe.
Mm,
But the average job seeker who has tremendous skills to offer is afraid
mm.
of reaching out. I think that would be something that to consider. So yeah, so these are the my pointers, KB. I'm not we have covered most of the ones that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Well, just one other thing about those informational
Please.
interviews, and we did speak about it last week, is that, I guess, your analogy about the drug dealer is that drug dealers have a lot more unjustified confidence than somebody looking for a job. But people. One of the things I think that, and I find this in the stretch shortlist challenge, is that the actual act of asking people get really scared to take it that
Mm,
that step
mm,
further. And I always say that, when you're reaching out to people to get some advice on something, just keep it in mind that dickheads don't say yes, right? So the only people that are going to say it's true. I'm gonna write a whole blog post on this. The only people that say yes are generally nice people, or people that have looked at your LinkedIn profile and gone, let's have a look at you because I might have something. So, you know, dickheads don't say yes. Nice people say yes, and they give you their time because they're nice people, basically. So just keep that in mind with informational interviews. Now, I've got a few more. One was, and we haven't talked about this much on our, how many shows are we up to? 200 and,
34. But the Cards Against Insanity was just probably last 15, 20, not
yes,
more.
okay. So 234th show, we've avoided speaking a lot about LinkedIn because we kind of go,
It's
everybody else on LinkedIn is talking about LinkedIn, but I think we can. I think we should give ourselves a few minutes permission to do that. Um, One of the cards against insanity, and fresh idea card, no, network boost card, that a
network
fresh
boost.
idea
Yeah.
boost. Don't skimp the LinkedIn pimp, right? Now, the thing about your LinkedIn profile is there are certain things on your LinkedIn profile that are really important that LinkedIn's own research says will promote people to actually click through on your profile, to send you a connection request, to read your profile.
Mm,
And those things are, I've got them on the card here,
mm,
put a photo up.
mm,
Like, put a photo up because you get 12 times more click through if you actually have a photo because people see you as a real person. So that's number one. Update your headline.
mm,
So put in your headline, you've got 200, I think it's 222 characters. So you want to have in your
mm,
headline something about you, something about the 3 or 4 key skills maybe, and how you'd like to make a contribution. There's a video on the YouTube channel about actually doing that. Update your job titles. They will help you get click through. Add your education and add your skills in. All of those things LinkedIn has said will help you come up in searches and look like a credible professional. And it's not a fully optimized bells and whistles profile, but so many people don't even do that. You'll stand out if you do that as well. So, and then the other thing is put a banner up. You
mm,
can say so much more in a banner, because people are really visual people. So if they see you or see your work context and your photo in that work context, they believe that that's what you want to do, and they may not read any more of your profile. So the things that I've said are quite basic things to
Mm.
do, but mainly the people that are going to read your profile are headhunters and recruiters, and that's where
Yep.
you want detail. Other people that you're reaching out to connect with will
Mm.
just see if you've got a photos, have a quick look at your experience, or they might just look at what's in your headline and go, yep, in my networker, I can see the
Yep.
benefit of connecting with you as well.
We got a
That's my
question.
intro. So
We got a question. For
ah,
LinkedIn, how do you tailor it when you are making a radical change from a finance to career path to a creative one?
ah. That's a really good question. And I do have a couple of videos on the YouTube channel around how to write your headline for career change tomorrow. So go and have a look at those. But that actually is a really radical career change. And I guess you've got to find, um, I think one thing is your about section is a great place to explain that. So that's a section that you get to make your introduction into the world. So in that section, I would be, if you're committed to this change and you're not got a foot in both camps, I would actually say, put in that the why. What is it is about the creative industries that
Mm.
have inspired you? But equally, like what I've done with one of my clients who wanted to change from being a hardware engineer into accounting, was I basically said what she didn't enjoy about software engineering and hardware engineering was the fact that she didn't get to meet people, and
Mm.
that's what she discovered from that she was much more suited to being in front of people and talking to people. So she used what she didn't like in her old profession
Mm.
as a driver towards seeking out, what made her bad in her old profession was what would make her good in her new one. So talk about how you've come to that decision is probably, a great way to do it. Is it something like, as something that you loved as a child and you gave away because you thought you had to earn some money, or what that's what other people wanted you to do, or how you actually came to make that choice or that make that decision is a great story to actually put in your summary section as well. And then I'd actually make sure that if you've got some creative work or you've worked in a creative role, you want to have that on your LinkedIn profile as well, even if you've freelanced in that area. You want to talk about, the type of work that you've done and who
Yep.
you've done it for and what you've enjoyed about it as well.
Yeah, agree. And secondly, I would probably, also, think about headline and say, you know, I was a finance accountant, now a painter. Something like that, which is quirky enough for people to know that you are
Yeah,
changing. And also think about the banner picture, LinkedIn banner as well. Something which is how it used to be, how it was then, and now
yeah.
what I want to do. So I think something which, so you got three places to really communicate your career change story there, Tamara. So your
Mm.
LinkedIn banner, LinkedIn headline, and also the about section, which is going to be the real meat over there.
And the other thing too with that, Tanara, is that's where I think you might have just said it, but I was just a bit distracted, Nish, about the banner. Like in your banner is a really powerful expression of what you want to do creatively. So if you say you're creative and you don't have a creative banner or something interesting in that,
Yeah,
then that's again a picture paints 1,000 words. So yeah.
excellent.
Got another card, Nish? One more card before we go, or we sign
Go
off?
ahead. Nana, go ahead.
The one that really spoke to me this morning about creating inspiration is the fangirl card or fanboy
Mm,
card.
mm,
So the card says, fangirl or fan or boy, a role model job searcher, seek out someone successful who's gone before you. So seek out somebody who's doing what it is that you actually want to do. So Einstein, we've got on the back of the card, it says, Einstein says insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Us, what we say is that insanity is not doing the same thing that someone successful has done and expecting the same results.
Mm,
So you want to actually look at somebody who's gone the path, and you'll find heaps of people like that on LinkedIn. Sometimes in the Straight to Shortlist challenge, what I do with that is if somebody wants to change their career, I'll
mm,
actually put those keywords in a Google hack and LinkedIn and a few other keywords to bring up people's profiles who've actually made that kind of change. So I helped somebody go from being a teacher to a researcher that way, just by seeing, like putting those keywords on Google, finding that profile on LinkedIn, and then you go and speak to that person and
mm,
say, I'm really interested in how you did it, and what does that organization that you're in now really value, like
mm,
what did you say to actually or do to
mm.
actually make that change.
Makes sense. Absolutely. Excellent. That's pretty much it, KB, from our side.
Yeah,
Just before Christmas.
just before
You know,
Christmas.
yeah, and we will see you.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling.
That's it. We will see you one more time, and we would probably go and ask all the guests who joined us this year to come on the final show, and see if we can celebrate the final show with Christmas cheer. That would be fun. So, any parting words, KB?
So usual nag, don't forget to follow the hashtag career care package. um, if you're watching, I can't even speak. If you're
If you're
watching this
watching
video,
it on the YouTube, please
please
go
give us
ahead,
a thumbs up.
subscribe, and
Don't
click on
forget
the
to
button.
subscribe. We'll put a link to the Cards Against Insanity in the YouTube comments. I always think we
I've
forget
already
to
done
do
that.
that. Oh, you've
Yep,
done it in
done that.
YouTube?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Excellent. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Excellent. So until we see you, have a great weekend, have a happy weekend, and look after yourself and get vaccinated if you're still waiting, or get a booster jab if you're
It's all about
eligible for
shenanigans,
that.
people.
Yeah, no, isn't it? Yeah. All right, everyone. Have fun.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.